All right. So, like I was saying, I'm Mike, owner and founder of Loudwater Outfitters. We specialize in missing persons, cold cases, and as well as trying to, if we don't have the resources ourselves, there's numerous people within the Loudwater community that can offer things that we can't at certain times. So that's what we're here for today. I'm going to turn everything over to you so you can introduce yourself and basically just tell us why we're here today, as far as the case itself and where we're kind of at with that.
Okay, so my name is Mary Tucker, and we are going to be discussing the case of Jorden Nebling. She is now a 21-year-old girl that has been missing for 3 years as of October the 10th. Um, she was not reported missing for almost a month because she just didn't have a really supportive home life. I'm her former stepmother. So I'm not blood related to her in any way, but my son is. That's his sister. So when it was brought to my attention that she was missing, I contacted the police department and we reported her missing. But unfortunately, because I'm not a blood relative, I was not taken very serious. And so the first couple investigators that we had didn't really do anything much. We were then given an investigator. His name's Investigator Ward. He's no longer with Granville County, but he took me serious and he really dug in and listened to what I had to say. At the time that Jorden went missing, she had been dating a gentleman named Tyler Wilkins. Um, Through my investigating, I found out that Tyler had picked her up off the side of the road from a car that had broken down and took her back to his house. I then texted with Tyler. Tyler told me that they had gotten in an argument and that she walked off and he never saw her again. Um, he told the investigators that he didn't ever see her that day. So at the very beginning, his stories weren't the same. Um, and over the course of the next year and a half, he got arrested multiple times for very violent crimes, for attempted murder, for pointing and presenting a firearm, just a string of violence against his significant other and her family. Um, and that resulted in allegations that he has murdered Clarissa Winchester and their unborn child in November of last year. He is currently in jail for that. Um, we have had numerous searches happen around the Travelers Rest and Marietta community in locations where they thought that she might be. Nothing has come up. They did find some clothes in Travelers Rest, Marietta area on a property belonging to his uncle that we believe to be Jordan's.
Okay.
There was no DNA evidence, but the her mother, when she left her mother's house, the description of clothes she's wearing matched the clothes and shoes that were found.
And so once they kind of what happened after they discovered the clothing, right? Like the clothing and the shoes and everything else was, to your knowledge, what was kind of the steps that were taken after that? Like how has law enforcement kind of followed up on that? Have y'all been given
So
anything?
it they were discovered during a search in January of this year, and there was nothing else. They didn't go search that property again or anything like that.
How large of an area are we talking here where the clothes were found?
I
And was
believe
it
it's between 25 and 50 acres.
okay? But the property that it was found on, do you have any idea what led them to searching that area?
It's
Like,
Tyler's uncle's property,
okay. Um, now,
and that's where Tyler resided. When he resided in Travelers, well, it's technically a Greenville address, but it's in the Travelers Rest community.
mhm,
Um, that's where he resided with his mother. and Jorden when they were together. And right after Jorden went missing, he packed up and moved to his uncle's house in Marietta. And that's where he lived until he was arrested. That's where Clarissa's murder happened.
Okay. So obviously the clothing was found on the property there. Whereabouts did they ever say? Like, well, I mean, was it far out? Was it in a disturbed
No,
area? Nothing really. Is there any reason anybody would be back there?
not to my knowledge. It's just a field.
Okay. Do you know if there's been any questioning on from law enforcement to him since that's taken place?
Yeah, he refuses to speak to law enforcement or to his lawyer. He will not speak at all.
Okay, so he's just not saying anything in any way.
Nope.
All right. And so so you've obviously been back and forth in touch with the investigators throughout, and I know you said it's changed a couple of times. What's the standing of, I guess, the relationship as far as the information they're relaying to you now, or what are their plans going forward? I mean, kind of what are we looking at there? Because I mean, to me, it sounds as though, I mean, if you're looking for a clue, you couldn't really get any more of a concrete, like, evidentiary value than the actual clothing that was believed to be the last thing she was seen in on the property of the person alleged or believed to be possibly be involved.
Well, and even more so, Tyler had possession of her phone when they arrested him about 9 months after she went missing. Because when they did a search of his house, they found a gun and some drugs.
Hmm.
So he got arrested. But when he got arrested, they found her phone logged into all of her social media accounts in his possession.
Hmm.
The last phone that she had, that was her phone. And so, and it was charged and he was carrying it around with him. So he was keeping track of all the messages that people sent her and all of the things that were going on her social media. He had a list of all her passwords.
Yeah. And the phone was still active after all that time.
Well,
The,
it wasn't active. It was a Wi-Fi phone, but
yeah,
it was, it
but it,
still worked. He was using it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it was the same phone that she had previous, right? Then he'd
Yep.
had it that okay. Well, so, I don't know. I mean, obviously, law enforcement had been out there and done a search at that point in time, but it makes you question. And again, that's why I started this, because I do second guess the thoroughness of these investigations at times, right? And again, I'm saying that as have been in law enforcement for 10 years as an investigator.
I
It's like,
I wrote a letter to the police department and thanked investigator Wolf, who's been our investigator, because he has kept trying.
mm,
I mean, since so investigator Ward did that first search on the property in Greenville, and
mm,
then investigator Wolf, since then he's had the case for like a year and a half,
mm,
and he's done 4 searches, 2 of them on the same property, which is his uncle's. He didn't turn up anything the first time. The second time he found her clothes. Then he did a search on a property down below Greenville, like Piedmont area,
yep.
which I don't know how it connected at all. And then they did a search in Travelers Rest recently, which turned up nothing. And that was off of a tip from the jail.
Okay. Yeah. So to me, it definitely seems as though, and again, we've had the most success when other people say that it's impossible, there's nothing there, just going back and revisiting what can you actually prove, or like what's the last known location? Where do you have any kind of evidence leading up to? And for me, all day, every day is going to point to the area that the clothes were found at. You know, the phone's been found in the same area. Well, not in the same area, but with him,
And
he
then,
had possession of
yeah,
that. I still think that it should be looked into further. And I know people will hear that and they'll be like, "Oh, well, you know, why would you say that?" You got it. Well, I say that because we'd also have worked cases where numerous law enforcement agencies have been working an area for a month, if not 2 months, and not been able to find anything. We go out there and use that same exact tactic and be able to make a recovery off of remains there. Same thing with the numerous groups that we work with. Now, the question that I would have is, so obviously law enforcement going about it. And again, I understand having search warrants and everything else, just because that which is what I did for a long time. But now it is different. Do you think that that would be something that the property owner or his uncle would be willing to allow private
No,
entities to come out? No.
no.
Okay, so the
I think that would be very difficult because um I don't know him personally. I've never met him,
mhm,
but um he was present during Clarissa's murder.
yeah, okay,
He faced charges for not stopping it.
yeah, and that
So
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
you're fine. I don't see him as being cooperative.
Yeah, now
I hope he would be, but
yeah. Now is and I ask that because obviously that's the easiest way to go about it most of the time is if they are willing to cooperate in that type of capacity. Now, even if they're not, if law enforcement gets involved, myself has worked with law enforcement, other groups that I am pretty close working relationship with, if the law enforcement or the investigative agency obtains a search warrant for that property again, even though they've already been out there a million times, these other groups or organizations will come in and will actually go through and perform their searches with law enforcement there, and they kind of fall under that umbrella. They're not acting in a law enforcement capacity, but all these dogs or cadaver dogs, uh, they're all certified through the same channels, so they are certified. And the big thing that I want to just a little side note on that is everybody that I work with or that uses these dogs or everything, it's not, and I'm not knocking them. Like these aren't dogs that you just pick up and then it's like, okay, yeah, I train them or I imprint them on being able to recognize these odors and they go out and find them. Like they're all certified. So the big thing with that is if these dogs aren't certified, if you do go out there and find remains and it ends up going to court at any kind of level, then their testimony as a handler is not going to be looked upon the same as if they weren't, right? So everything's on the up and up there. Do you think that that is something that the investigate? So who's actually over this case? Greenville County?
yes, investigator Blake Wolf is our investigator, and I am very thankful that we got an investigator that cares. I do.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like he has exhausted all of his options and he doesn't know where to go from here.
Hmm.
So I think that it's okay to ask for help.
Have they
And
brought
I hope he
any?
feels that way.
Have they brought in any outside resources since the very beginning that you know of? Any other agencies?
The Center for Exploited and Missing Children has, I've been in touch with them. But that's it.
Okay. All right. And so the one thing that I am going to do as soon as we get off here and I get this posted up, the very first thing I'm going to do. So the biggest thing is being able to draw attention back to it, right? And once people hear the story, because and I don't want this to sound negative in any way, but if you just look at it from a common sense type standpoint and you look at everything as the totality of the circumstances there, people are going to make a decision of what they believe happened anyway. But if you go off of the actual what you can prove, the evidence that leads you to an area, that area where the clothing was found is going to be the most logical place to start. And I'm sure it has been exhausted or it has been searched tremendously, but it never hurts to go back and do it again. And this still is an active case. Nobody you until you know 100% what took place, then you just don't know. The problem is the person believed to be involved isn't cooperating, which they have that right. Whether I agree with it or disagree, it is irrelevant. They can choose not to. In a perfect world, would it be nice if they did say that? Yes, but if we lived in that, then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, unfortunately. So I'm going to definitely reach out to the 3 or 4 different groups that I know of for a fact that will share this, that also have a absolute ton of different resources that have been doing this for anywhere from 10 to 25 years, if not longer, as far as
Right.
experience. Um, so getting the resources to come help you is not an issue, right? Like, I mean, there obviously there'll be some barriers and things that have to be worked out, but people are willing to help. The problem is if especially in this case, um, if law enforcement won't be supportive to allow others to come in to do what they do, um, in a professional manner, that doesn't mean they're going to come in and just be all willy nilly and tear up everybody's land, property, things like that. Like everybody that I associate myself with or that I put my name with are all professionals. Uh, but that's going to be the biggest thing. And I think the more people that see this and hear the story, and if they reach out, if they send emails or if they call, and I'm not telling anybody to do that or to harass law enforcement, nothing like that, but the more that this is put back into the spotlight, the more news agencies that pick this up and say, hey, this is what's going on, the more congressmen from the state of South Carolina or from around the country that see it and they say, hey, what's going on here? SLED, the more eyes that get on it, the more ears that hear this story, the more it gets shared, the higher the chances are that they're going to say, okay, you know what? Well, we're willing to work with outside agencies. And, I've worked with departments that have been great about it. And I have worked with other departments that basically do everything up to include threaten to take you to jail if you come down there and do anything without their approval. Right. So I get it. And me personally, when I was in law enforcement, I was never that way because I was like, well, my job is to help people solve these things. So even if it's a long shot, if I've exhausted everything that I know how to do, you just kind of got to put that ego in check there for a minute. And as long as it's lawful, and most of them don't even charge anything to do these kind of services, why would you not utilize that? And I think that's kind of where you're at now. Um,
Right.
what are your plans going forward? Is there anything for the people that are watching this? Is there anything that they can look into or groups that you're working with that you want them to go check out? Like obviously, I know you said you've been working on this the entire time. What is it that me or anybody else that's watching this can do to help you? Like if you could ask anything of anyone, what would it be?
The only thing that I can really ask at this point is for people to pay attention, to share her story, to hope that we can get enough traction that we can get it solved. So, we have a get together coming up on October 10th, the 3-year mark of her being missing. It's going to be in Marietta, I believe at Marietta First Baptist Church, at 6 o'clock, and we're gonna have everybody get together. We're selling shirts with her on them, and we're gonna tell stories about who she was, where everybody can get to know the person that she was and care about finding her. And so, we have a Facebook page. It's called Find Jorden Nebling.
Hmm.
If you can't come out, then we're going to be streaming it live on there. And we just really want to get her found.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll do that too. So I'll put the links into all of that once I post this as well. I think on my end, that's going to be the biggest thing, right? Is just to get the ball rolling, get the traction and the spotlight brought back onto this, to get people asking the questions why. Why has it taken this long? What have been the obstacles, the roadblocks there? Maybe somebody will see something or get to reading into this and see something that's, I mean, the answers could be hiding in plain sight, literally, and it's just been a very small detail that's overlooked. And that's why I utilize social media, because of the power of all the people that do see these and share them. Because I'm just one person, or I may work with a couple of different people, or these other organizations. But that's what the power of it is you bring people from all across the country. I mean, there's probably close to 100 different families I've worked with now that all share similar stories, and they're going to have resources or knowledge of things that I don't even know about that they've found out along the way. And then y'all can all basically be one big conglomerate of trying to figure everything out. And that's where the power comes in. So it's power in numbers. And by those numbers, the more attention you bring to it, obviously the better that's going to be. So
Right.
that's the main goal at this point. Now, as far as going through and doing searches, I don't that's not an issue at all. I would do that. But the problem is, like I said, for me or anybody else that's going to get involved with the searches, now we have to have law enforcement to say, okay, you know what, we're willing to do this, right? Like,
Do, in your experience, is Granville County willing to accept help?
I don't have, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have anything negative to say about Greenville County. Because as far as their cold cases and their investigative divisions, even their like road deputies, they're all very squared away from what I've seen, right? Their cold case division is actually one of the best in the state of South Carolina. Like I do have to give them that. But
Well, and that's why I have nothing negative to say about
mhm,
Investigator Wolf. He really did come in right after somebody else who cared. But before that, we had four different investigators that really didn't care.
yeah,
And then we got these two, Investigator Ward, and then this is Investigator Blake Wolf, and he has cared.
mhm,
He has been on it, and I just feel like he is at a point where he does not know where to go.
yeah.
So I hope he will see it my way and think that some help is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like we're in no way to just anybody, especially myself. I can't really speak on everybody, right? But for me, I don't care who works with who, how it gets done, anything like that. My end goal is all I care about is the answers, the results, right? And that's all I want. Like for you and everybody else said, or for anybody that's got a family member or loved one that is missing or has been missing, like that's the worst feeling in the world. And I can't tell you like there's no worse feeling than not knowing, right? Like, and then all the people that have been going through it, whether it be for a couple of days or, I've worked with people that has been 40, 50 years. And that's just insane to me, right? I mean, and it happens. Unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. But we're also in a completely different day and age now to where the amount of resources and technology and everything else, like these cases could be closed at a rapid rate. And that's what I hope to do. If anything, just bring awareness to that. So the more people work together, the better off it's going to be. Um, again, we've had a couple cases out of Greenville County. One that I know of for a fact, she was missing over a year, and my interactions with law enforcement, however brief, they were positive, and it did result in us being able to locate her. And she was alive and well. So that's always a possibility. I don't give out any kind of false hope or nothing like that. All I can tell you is I'll do everything that I can to help you in any way humanly possible. And
I appreciate it.
that's how we start now. So is there anything else that you want to get out before we get off here and I get this put up?
I just want to thank everybody in advance for any help that they can give.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll be praying for you. I'm gonna get off here. We're gonna get this put together, and then obviously you have my contact information. So anything that you need in the meantime, you just reach out and let me know. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.